"This curriculum is unacceptable, Principal Sharma." Mr. Sterling Thorne's voice boomed, echoing off the quiet office walls as he leaned forward, pointing emphatically at the offending document. "My child requires superior educational materials, not this revisionist history." Principal Sharma maintained a calm demeanor, hands clasped, even as Thorne's indignant demands filled the room. "What would you do if someone tried to rewrite your expertise based on their own narrow worldview and privilege? What would you do if someone dismissed your expertise based on nothing more than what they assumed about your background or the uniform you wore? It's a familiar sting, isn't it? To have your hard-earned knowledge, your dedication, your very worth, judged and found lacking by someone whose only qualification is their own arrogance. This isn't just a story about a school. It's a story about the weight of assumptions and the quiet power of underestimated brilliance." It was mid-morning at Eastridge High, a bustling public school whose vibrant spirit often belied its aging infrastructure and strained budgets. The air hummed with the energy of class change, a symphony of locker doors clanging, youthful chatter, and the distant ringing of a bell. Moving through the crowded hallway with a quiet grace was Ms. Eleanor Vance, her presence a steady anchor amidst the adolescent chaos. Students parted for her, offering warm greetings and quick smiles. "Morning, Ms. Vance." "Great class, Ms. Vance," she returned, each with a gentle nod, her eyes holding a deep understanding of each young face. She exchanged a knowing glance with Ms. Brenda Jenkins, another veteran teacher, a silent acknowledgement of their shared purpose. For Eleanor, Eastridge wasn't just a job, it was a calling. It was a place where she poured her heart and intellect into shaping minds, an act of invisible labor that often went unrecognized beyond these walls. Inside Ms. Vance's history classroom, the energy was palpable. Sunlight streamed through old high windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air above worn but well-cared-for desks. Eleanor stood before a whiteboard, not lecturing, but orchestrating a lively debate on the socio-economic impacts of the Industrial Revolution, deftly weaving in connections to modern global supply chains. Her questions were precise, probing, encouraging students to challenge their own assumptions. A young woman argued passionately about labor rights, while a quiet young man meticulously cited historical data. Eleanor's ability to make history a living, breathing narrative relevant to their lives was her superpower. She didn't just teach dates and names. She taught critical thinking, empathy, and the enduring lessons of humanity. Later, after the final bell, Ms. Vance's classroom was quiet, save for the soft scratch of her pen grading papers. She meticulously reviewed student essays, offering thoughtful, encouraging feedback. On her desk, nestled among stacks of well-worn academic texts, a subtle, framed certificate from a prestigious historical society or a published academic journal might catch the eye. Eleanor believed true education wasn't about rote memorization or regurgitating facts. It was about forging intellectual curiosity, fostering critical analysis, and understanding the complex tapestry of human experience. Her quiet commitment to intellectual rigor ran deeper than most realized, a wellspring of profound expertise. Miles away, Principal Anya Sharma sat in her office, the day's stress etched across her face. Papers and files were strewn across her desk, a testament to the endless demands of running a public high school. She reread Mr. Sterling Thorne's angry email, its aggressive tone still grating. A sigh escaped her lips as her gaze drifted to a framed photo on her desk, a smiling Ms. Vance, surrounded by other dedicated Eastridge teachers. Sharma knew the influence a man like Thorne wielded, his wealth and connections a constant pressure point for district administrators. But she also knew Ms. Vance. She trusted Eleanor's professionalism, her unwavering expertise, and her deep commitment to her students above all else. Sharma would stand by her staff, but the battle ahead was clearly going to be a difficult one, a testament to the constant political tightrope public school leaders walked. Meet the antagonist whose privilege blinds him to the value of public service and genuine expertise. Sterling Thorne ran his world from a lavish home office, all dark wood and leather, overlooking a manicured golf course that stretched into the distant city lights. Tonight, his silk robe felt heavy with self-importance as he dismissed a glossy private school brochure with a casual flick of his wrist. His gaze then fell upon a printed copy of Eastridge High's history curriculum, a document he held as if it were contaminated. "Unacceptable," he muttered, swirling expensive amber liquid in a crystal glass. Absolute drivel, wasted potential, that's what public education is, no standards. Thorne, a man whose inherited wealth had cushioned him from consequence, and whose business dealings often involved simply buying out his problems, believed his judgment was infallible, especially when it came to anything he deemed beneath him. See the problem through the eyes of privilege, setting up a clash of values and knowledge. The next morning, the Eastridge High history textbook lay open on Thorne's polished mahogany desk. A red pen poised like a surgeon's scalpel over its pages. He jabbed at sections detailing indigenous history and the contributions of diverse cultures. Global interconnectedness? What drivel! Too progressive, unnecessary historical detours. He scoffed, underlining passages with an aggressive flourish. His plan was clear. Demand a more traditional and streamlined curriculum. One focused on foundational history, meaning primarily European and American narratives, seen through a very specific lens. Thorne genuinely believed his wealth and social standing granted him not just the right, but the asterisk obligation to dictate what public school children learned. To him, the curriculum was simply another asset to be optimized, another problem to be fixed by a man of his superior intellect. Watch as a wealthy parent attempts to strong-arm a public school, unaware of the depth of expertise he's challenging. The following day, Thorne sat opposite Principal Anya Sharma, his demeanor a practiced blend of politeness and veiled threat. "Principal Sharma," he began, a smooth, almost unctuous tone in his voice. "I must express my profound concerns about the current history curriculum. My son, Sterling Jr., is a bright boy. But this material, it seems rather, shall we say, lacking in real academic rigor." He gestured to a sleek tablet displaying what he called alternative resources, a collection of simplified texts that conveniently omitted any historical complexities he found inconvenient. Sharma listened, her expression carefully neutral. She knew Thorne's type well, a man who saw education as a commodity, and Eastridge High as a service he could simply demand to be altered. But she also knew the integrity of her school and the unwavering dedication of her staff. The stage is set. An expert teacher is called to defend her craft against an entitled outsider. Later that afternoon, the quiet hum of Ms. Vance's classroom was interrupted by a call from Principal Sharma. Eleanor listened, her fingers idly tracing the spine of a worn textbook. Sharma's voice, though calm, carried an undertone of exasperation as she explained Mr. Thorne's demands and requested Eleanor's presence at a follow-up meeting. A flicker of something, weariness perhaps, or a familiar annoyance, crossed Eleanor's face, but it quickly hardened into quiet resolve. This wasn't just about a parent's complaints. It was about the integrity of her subject, her students, and the very principles of public education. Eleanor's quiet strength, honed over decades of facing challenges big and small, was now ready to be put to the test. Witness the meticulous preparation of an expert, ready to face down ignorance with irrefutable facts. That night, Eleanor Vance's home office became a sanctuary of intellectual rigor. Books on curriculum theory, historical methodologies, and state educational standards lay open across her desk. A cup of herbal tea steamed beside a meticulously organized stack of notes. She wasn't preparing for a simple parent-teacher conference. She was preparing for an intellectual battle. Every argument Thorne might raise, every misinformed criticism, she dissected and countered with precise, evidence-based reasoning. Eleanor's lifelong dedication to history wasn't just about teaching facts. It was about fostering critical thought and understanding. Her quiet confidence wasn't born of arrogance, but of an unshakable belief in the power of truth and the integrity of knowledge. The polished oak door of Principal Sharma's office swung open. Mr. Sterling Thorne strode in, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the functional decor of Eastridge High. He offered a curt nod to Principal Sharma, his gaze sweeping over the room and then, dismissively, over Ms. Eleanor Vance, who sat quietly beside the principal. He assumed she was some junior staff member, perhaps a secretary. He did not extend a hand, nor did he offer a greeting. "Mr. Thorne, thank you for coming," Principal Sharma said, her voice smooth and professional. "This is Ms. Eleanor Vance, our esteemed head of the history department, who also oversees curriculum development for her subject." Thorne barely registered the introduction, his eyes lingering for a moment on Ms. Vance's simple, yet impeccably neat, blouse and sensible skirt. He didn't see the quiet intelligence in her eyes, only what he perceived as the uniform of an ordinary public school teacher. His immediate judgment, born of privilege and unexamined bias, had already cast her into a box. "Right," Thorne grunted, waving a hand dismissively in Vance's general direction before turning his full attention to Principal Sharma. "Well, let's get down to business. I've reviewed your history curriculum, and frankly, Principal, it's problematic." He leaned forward, launching into a critique filled with buzzwords he'd likely picked up in a corporate boardroom, not an academic journal. "It lacks objective rigor, focuses too heavily on what I'd call soft history, and frankly, the pedagogical framework seems antiquated." He glanced at Vance with a patronizing smirk, as if daring her to interrupt. Eleanor remained composed, her hands clasped in her lap, her expression unreadable. She listened, absorbing every ill-informed accusation, her quiet observation a stark contrast to Thorne's bluster. Principal Sharma, ever the diplomat, seized a small opening. "Ms. Vance, perhaps you could elaborate on the rationale behind our current curriculum, particularly the emphasis on diverse historical perspectives." Eleanor opened her mouth, her voice calm and measured. "Certainly, Principal. Our approach is designed to foster critical thinking and a holistic understanding of history, rather than rote memorization. We integrate primary sources and multiple viewpoints to challenge students to—" Yes, critical thinking," Thorne interrupted, cutting her off mid-sentence with a wave of his hand. "Public school platitudes. What I'm talking about is real history. Dates, names, the foundational narratives. Not endless debates about perspectives. The familiar sting of being unheard, of having her professional expertise dismissed due to preconceived notions about her and her institution, tightened Eleanor's jaw. Thorne continued, now addressing Eleanor directly, his tone dripping with condescension. "Look, Ms. Vance, I appreciate your dedication, but you need to stick to the basics. Prepare these students for the real world, for college, for success, not some touchy-feely interpretation of the past." He leaned back, a smug look on his face. "Perhaps you should read some actual academic literature on curriculum design. There are excellent journals out there, far beyond what you might find in a public school library." Eleanor maintained unwavering eye contact, her quiet gaze a silent, unyielding challenge that Thorne, in his arrogance, completely missed. After Thorne, satisfied with his performance, had made his exit, Principal Sharma let out a long, frustrated sigh. "Eleanor, I am so sorry." His behavior was completely unacceptable. She ran a hand through her hair, looking genuinely dismayed. Eleanor, already gathering her papers, offered a small, weary smile. "It's quite all right, Anya. I've dealt with worse." Her voice was soft, but there was an underlying current of steel. "And don't worry, I have a plan." The narrator knew Eleanor's resilience ran deep, forged over decades of dedicated service in a system often undervalued. Her quiet determination to protect her curriculum, her students, and the integrity of public education was an unyielding force, a promise of battles fought and won in silence. Watch as a private grievance turns into a public smear campaign, raising the stakes for our protagonist. Mr. Sterling Thorne, ensconced in the polished mahogany of his home office, wasn't content with merely influencing Principal Sharma. His fingers flew across his keyboard, a venomous digital campaign spilling onto local parent forums. "Eastridge High's history curriculum is a disservice to our children," he typed, his words laced with outrage. Nothing more than indoctrination and a blatant disregard for academic standards. He posted screenshots of textbook pages, selectively highlighting sections on diverse historical perspectives, framing them as, quote, unnecessary and divisive. He hinted at solutions he was prepared to offer, subtly implying his own superior, privately vetted materials. It was a calculated move, leveraging his wealth and influence to spread misinformation, twisting academic integrity into a public scandal. The power of a wealthy, vocal parent, unchecked by facts, was a potent, dangerous force, and Thorne wielded it without a shred of remorse. Feel the ripple effect of a parent's accusations as an entire school community faces scrutiny. The digital firestorm ignited by Mr. Thorne soon cast a shadow over Eastridge High. Whispers followed Ms. Eleanor Vance down the bustling hallways. "Ms. Vance, is it true what Mr. Thorne is saying about the history class?" a student asked, confusion etched on their young face. Another, more defensive, chimed in, "But I like learning about different cultures." In the staff room, Ms. Brenda Jenkins, Eleanor's colleague, slammed a newspaper down, its headline blaring, quote, "Curriculum Controversy Rocks Eastridge." "Unfounded attacks!" Brenda fumed, turning to Eleanor. "How can one parent cause such a ruckus?" Eleanor, though the stress was visible in the slight tightening around her eyes, offered a reassuring smile. "We teach truth, Brenda. That's all we can do." She was a steadying force, a quiet anchor amidst the storm of speculation and doubt, reminding everyone of the unwavering mission of public education. Witness the unsung battles principals fight daily, defending their staff and standards against external pressures. In her office, Principal Anya Sharma was on the phone, her voice a calm counterpoint to the rising tide of public indignation. Her desk was a battlefield of policy documents and furious parent emails. "I understand your concerns, Mr. Davies," she said, her tone diplomatic but firm, "but our curriculum adheres to all state standards, and we believe a comprehensive view of history is essential. Our head of the history department, Ms. Vance, is an expert in this field, and her pedagogical approach is beyond reproach." She carefully defended the school, referencing Eleanor's expertise without revealing the full weight of her credentials. That card was still held close. This was the precarious position of public school leaders, constantly balancing the demands of a vocal community with the unwavering principles of academic integrity, often fighting unseen battles to protect their dedicated staff. The ultimate showdown is set, a public forum where expertise will be challenged by privilege in front of the community. Mr. Sterling Thorne wasn't satisfied with merely stirring the pot online. He wanted a public spectacle. On a video call with a local school board member, Thorne, radiating false sincerity, suggested a public town hall meeting. "It's a matter of community concerns, you see," he purred, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. "Parents deserve to have their voices heard, and the school should be transparent about its curriculum choices." He framed it as a democratic necessity, a noble pursuit of accountability. But his true intent was a calculated power play. To publicly discredit Eastridge High, Principal Sharma, and especially Ms. Vance, in an arena where he believed his rhetoric and influence would overwhelmingly prevail. The battleground was shifting, and Thorne was confident he held all the cards. Witness the quiet strength of a community rallying around an expert, ready to defend truth against rhetoric. In Ms. Vance's classroom, long after the last student had gone home, the lights burned bright. Eleanor, Principal Sharma, and Ms. Brenda Jenkins huddled over a laptop, papers spread across the desk. They reviewed presentation points, anticipating every one of Thorne's likely arguments. "He'll try to paint us as radical," Brenda muttered. "And you, Eleanor, as, well, you know." Eleanor nodded, a quiet determination setting her jaw. "Then we'll meet his rhetoric with facts, and his prejudice with principle." Brenda looked at her, admiration clear in her eyes. "Your calm resilience, Eleanor. It's inspiring." Ms. Vance smiled softly. "This isn't just about me, or even this curriculum. It's about academic integrity and defending every dedicated public school educator. We stand together." It was a quiet sense of solidarity, a shared purpose forged in the face of an external threat, preparing for the inevitable public showdown. The air in Eastridge High's auditorium crackled with anticipation. Every seat was filled, a diverse mosaic of parents, teachers, and curious community members, eager to witness the evening's public forum. Stage lights cast a harsh glow, illuminating a panel where Mr. Sterling Thorne sat, a confident smirk playing on his lips, his expensive suit, a stark contrast to the more modest attire of the educators beside him. A few feet away, Ms. Eleanor Vance and Principal Anya Sharma sat, their expressions composed, though a flicker of anxiety was visible in Sharma's eyes. The local school board moderator stepped forward, tapping the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight we gathered to discuss concerns regarding Eastridge High's history curriculum. The words hung in the silence, heavy with the weight of impending confrontation. The moment of truth arrives. A public debate where a teacher's expertise will be put to the ultimate test. Mr. Thorne immediately took the podium, a rehearsed confidence radiating from him. He launched into a passionate, if deeply misinformed, speech. Friends, parents, I stand before you tonight as a concerned citizen. Our children deserve a history curriculum that is relevant, not divisive. What we're seeing here at Eastridge is a departure from common sense. A curriculum that's, frankly, irrelevant and focused on narratives that only serve to divide us. He gestured dramatically, framing himself as a champion of traditional values, appealing to fear and a romanticized past. Some in the audience nodded, swayed by his polished delivery, while others exchanged skeptical glances. This was a performance, designed not to inform, but to manipulate. Witness the power of rhetoric and how easily public opinion can be swayed by a confident but misinformed speaker. Principal Sharma, with a calm resolve that belied the pressure she faced, rose to the podium after Thorne's theatrical display. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. While we appreciate all community input, it's important to clarify that Eastridge High's history curriculum rigorously adheres to state standards and is designed to foster critical thinking and a comprehensive understanding of history in all its complexities. She spoke with quiet authority, her voice a steady counterpoint to Thorne's bluster. We believe in preparing students for a complex world, not sheltering them from it. Then her gaze shifted to Ms. Vance, a subtle, strategic glint in her eyes. To further elaborate on the pedagogical principles and the meticulous design of this curriculum, I'd like to introduce Ms. Eleanor Vance, the esteemed head of our history department, and indeed, the lead curriculum specialist for the State of California. The principal stands firm, but her subtle introduction of our protagonist hints at a secret weapon. As Ms. Vance rose and began her measured walk toward the podium, a palpable tension filled the auditorium. Mr. Thorne, still seated, leaned ostentatiously into his microphone, a sneer curling his lips. "Excuse me," he scoffed, his voice loud enough to carry through the quiet hall. "Let's let the teachers speak their piece, of course. But then, I trust we'll get back to the serious concerns that truly matter to our children's future." His patronizing tone was unmistakable, a blatant attempt to diminish Eleanor before she even spoke. Vance paused at the podium, her gaze meeting Thorne's across the room. There was a quiet intensity in her eyes, a deep well of determination that Thorne, in his arrogance, completely failed to recognize. He was profoundly underestimating the woman before him, the ultimate act of disrespect. Watch as the antagonist attempts to silence the expert, unknowingly setting himself up for a spectacular fall. Ms. Vance began to speak, her voice clear and measured, cutting through the lingering tension. Thank you, Principal Sharma. The Eastridge High history curriculum is built upon foundational principles of historical inquiry and critical analysis. She spoke without a trace of emotion, outlining the educational philosophy with precision and clarity. She addressed Thorne's earlier points, not by directly attacking him, but by laying out irrefutable facts and pedagogical rationale. Thorne fidgeted in his seat, a flicker of impatience crossing his face. He clearly expected an emotional outburst, a defensive plea, or perhaps a weak academic explanation he could easily dismiss. He was oblivious, completely unaware that he was walking into an intellectual trap meticulously set by the very woman he sought to humiliate. The expert begins her calm, calculated defense, unknowingly preparing to drop a bombshell that will change everything. The auditorium air thickened, a palpable tension hanging over the audience as Ms. Vance, calm and collected, stood poised at the podium. Mr. Sterling Thorne, however, had clearly run out of patience. His face, already flushed from his earlier tirade, twisted with a fresh wave of irritation. Unable to contain his frustration at her measured composure, he leaned into his microphone, his voice cutting through the quiet. "Excuse me, Ms. Vance," he interjected, a sneer playing on his lips. "But what exactly are your qualifications to speak on state-level curriculum design?" He smiled smugly, a triumphant glint in his eye, certain he had cornered her, expecting her to simply reiterate her teaching experience. Ms. Vance paused, her gaze steady, a subtle, knowing smile gracing her lips. Oh, the delicious irony. The man had just walked straight into the trap she had so patiently laid. Miss Vance did not falter. With a calm, deliberate movement, she held up the very history textbook Mr. Thorne had spent weeks publicly criticizing. The cover, depicting a diverse group of historical figures, seemed to mock his narrow worldview. She gestured to a specific chapter, her voice clear and resonant. "Mr. Thorne, you mentioned this section on global interconnectedness as unnecessary and suggested a more traditional approach. One that, as you put it, doesn't confuse students with too many perspectives." Thorne nodded, still entirely confident, a preening satisfaction evident in his posture. He believed she was merely defending the text, unaware that she was setting the final, irrefutable stage for his downfall. His oblivious confidence was about to be shattered. Then, with the precision of a master surgeon, Miss Vance slowly turned the textbook to its title page. Her finger, steady and elegant, traced a path across the glossy paper, then paused, pointing directly to the author's name. The entire auditorium leaned forward, a collective breath held. "Perhaps you didn't notice, Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice now imbued with an undeniable, quiet authority. "But the author of this specific textbook, the one mandated by the state of California for all high school history courses, is actually—" Her voice trailed off, leaving a dramatic, cavernous silence in its wake. Thorne, who had been watching with a dismissive smirk, suddenly squinted at the page. His eyes, initially narrowed in disdain, widened in dawning horror. A collective gasp rippled through the community members, a wave of shock and realization washing over them. Miss Vance finished, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a diamond. "Myself, Eleanor Vance." She held the book aloft. Her name, bold and undeniable, clearly visible to all. A collective gasp, louder this time, rippled through the audience, quickly followed by a murmur that swelled into a wave of astonished whispers. Thorne's jaw dropped, the clipboard in his hand slipping to clatter unnoticed to the floor. His face, moments ago flushed with arrogance, drained of all color, cycling through confusion, disbelief, and the dawning horror of utter defeat. He stammered, a pathetic, strangled sound caught in his throat. That's impossible. You're a teacher here." Principal Sharma, seated beside Vance, could no longer contain her expression. A slow, profound smile spread across her face, a look of ultimate vindication for her esteemed colleague. This was the moment of public reckoning, the undeniable triumph of true expertise over baseless arrogance. An oppressive, heavy silence descended upon the Eastridge High auditorium, broken only by a few hushed whispers and the frantic flutter of Thorne's own heart. He remained frozen, mouth agape, utterly defeated, his carefully constructed world of privilege and perceived superiority crumbling around him. Miss Vance, her quiet dignity now amplified tenfold by the shocking revelation, calmly placed the textbook back onto the podium. Her composure, once mistaken for meekness, now radiated an unshakable confidence. Respect, as she knew, wasn't given. It was earned, and in that moment she had earned it in spades, a silent, powerful testament to intellectual integrity. The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of absolute, undeniable truth. Mr. Sterling Thorne's face, moments ago flushed with self-satisfaction, now cycled through shades of crimson and stark white. His jaw, which had been so quick to snap judgment, hung open, useless. That's impossible." He stammered again, though the proof, the very book he held, contradicted his every assumption. A ripple, not of polite murmurs, but of stunned, then appreciative. Applause began to build from the back of the auditorium, swelling forward. Thorne looked like a deer caught in headlights, his gaze darting from the book to Miss Vance, then frantically to the audience, searching for an escape. He mumbled something inaudible about a, quote, prior engagement, and practically scrambled from the stage, his expensive suit looking suddenly ill-fitting, his retreat a public capitulation. Principal Sharma, witnessing the spectacular fall from grace, simply offered Miss Vance a proud, knowing smile, a silent testament to the justice served. As Thorne vanished, the applause solidified, a wave of vindication washing over the room. Ms. Eleanor Vance, however, remained calm, her posture unwavering. She allowed the moment to settle, then, with a quiet authority that now commanded every ear, she continued her explanation of the curriculum. Her words, once dismissed as public school platitudes, now carried the immense weight of undisputed expertise. She spoke not just of historical facts, but of the importance of critical thinking, of engaging with diverse perspectives, and of preparing students for a complex, interconnected world. The audience, including the previously skeptical school board representatives, listened intently, many nodding in newfound respect. Her quiet power, rooted in profound knowledge and unwavering integrity, had transformed the atmosphere. It was a masterclass in education, delivered by its true architect. After the forum concluded, the auditorium lobby buzzed with a different kind of energy. No longer was it a battleground of opinions, but a space filled with warmth and genuine appreciation. Parents and community members, some of whom had been swayed by Thorne's initial rhetoric, now approached Ms. Vance with sincere congratulations and heartfelt apologies. "Ms. Vance, I am so sorry for not understanding," one mother said, shaking her hand firmly. "Your passion for our children's education is truly inspiring." Ms. Brenda Jenkins, her eyes shining with pride, embraced Eleanor fiercely. Principal Sharma, too, clasped Vance's hand, a look of profound gratitude on her face. The shift in perception was palpable. Eastridge High and its dedicated educators had been seen, truly seen, for their invaluable contribution. Meanwhile, in the sterile silence of his opulent home office, Mr. Sterling Thorne stared at his computer screen. The public backlash had been swift and brutal. His phone had not stopped ringing with calls from furious board members, and even a few business associates questioning his judgment. He had no choice. With a heavy sigh, Thorne reluctantly published a short, terse statement on the local parent forum, retracting his previous criticisms and offering a vague apology for his misunderstanding of the curriculum's depth. It was a forced eating of humble pie, a bitter pill for a man accustomed to unchallenged authority. The online campaign he had so confidently launched had backfired spectacularly, turning his self-proclaimed expertise into a public display of ignorance. The next day, as Ms. Vance walked through the bustling hallways of Eastridge High, the change in atmosphere was undeniable. Students greeted her with a new reverence, and colleagues offered knowing smiles. Ms. Brenda Jenkins caught up with her near the staff room. "Eleanor, you were magnificent last night," Brenda exclaimed, beaming. "You should revel in it a little, you know." Eleanor smiled gently. "My true reward, Brenda," she replied, her voice calm and steady, "is seeing our students learn, seeing them truly engage with history and think critically, not public acclaim." Her quiet strength, her unwavering focus on the core mission of education, was a testament to her character. She wasn't motivated by ego, but by an authentic dedication to her students and her craft. The polished oak table of the district school board office felt colder, harder, beneath Mr. Sterling Thorne's palms than any boardroom table he'd ever occupied. He sat across from 3 impassive school board members, with Principal Anya Sharma, a quiet, formidable presence at the end of the table. "Mr. Thorne," the board chair began, her voice devoid of the usual pleasantries, "your conduct at the public forum and your subsequent public statements constitute a grave disservice to Eastridge High, its dedicated staff, and a state-level academic expert. Such public defamation cannot be overlooked." Thorne shifted, his usual bluster replaced by a sullen silence. The board informed him of a temporary ban from all school-related activities and mandatory participation in an ethics and community engagement course. Sharma watched, a quiet satisfaction settling in her eyes. It was a stark reminder that even privilege, when wielded with such blatant disregard for respect and truth, could not shield one from accountability. Alone in his lavish home office, the silence was deafening. Sterling Thorne stared at the offending history textbook, a physical manifestation of his spectacular public humiliation. He reluctantly picked it up, the weight of it suddenly feeling heavier than before. His fingers traced the author's name on the cover, Eleanor Vance. He flipped to the sections he had so vehemently and ignorantly criticized, the chapters on global interconnectedness, on diverse historical narratives. He reread them, not with a red pen poised for dismissal, but with a flicker of something new, understanding, and, perhaps, a nascent regret. Pride, as they say, is a hard pill to swallow, but some lessons, even for Sterling Thorne, were undeniable. His world, once so certain, now held a crack, allowing a sliver of humility to enter. Back at Eastridge High, the atmosphere was noticeably lighter, imbued with a newfound pride. The story of Ms. Eleanor Vance, the humble teacher who authored the state's history textbook, had spread like wildfire. Local news outlets, initially drawn by Thorne's sensationalist campaign, now ran heartwarming features on Eastridge High and its remarkable educators. Community engagement surged, with parents volunteering more and expressing genuine appreciation. Teachers walked taller, feeling validated and respected. Students, too, seemed to carry themselves with renewed confidence, proud of their school and their visionary history teacher. Principal Sharma often said that Ms. Vance's dignified stand had not just defended the curriculum, it had elevated the entire institution, proving the profound ripple effect of integrity. In Ms. Vance's classroom, lessons took on a new resonance. Her students, who had always respected her, now looked at her with an added layer of awe and admiration. They listened more intently, their questions deeper, more probing. Vance, ever the educator, subtly wove the incident into her lessons on critical thinking and the importance of challenging assumptions. She spoke of the power of truth, the weight of evidence, and the courage it took to stand firm in one's convictions. Her legacy was not merely etched on the pages of a textbook, but in the minds and hearts of the young people she inspired daily, a living example of intellectual integrity and quiet fortitude. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows down the quiet hallways of Eastridge High, Ms. Eleanor Vance walked with a renewed sense of purpose. The incident with Mr. Thorne had, in a strange way, confirmed what she had always known. Her worth as an educator, as an intellectual, was never contingent on his validation, nor on the recognition of others. Yet, the public acknowledgement of her expertise, the vindication of her unwavering commitment to truth, had been important, not for her ego, but for the principle of the thing. True strength, the kind that endures, often lies not in loud pronouncements, but in quiet confidence and an unwavering dedication to one's calling. Ms. Vance embodied that strength, a beacon of resilience in a world too quick to judge. But the real lesson from Eastridge High, and from Ms. Eleanor Vance, extended far beyond the classroom walls. In a world where people are too often judged by their appearance, their background, or their assumed status, Eleanor's story served as a powerful reminder that expertise and wisdom can truly come from unexpected places. How many times have we, like Mr. Thorne, made swift judgments, dismissing valuable insights because they didn't come wrapped in the package we expected? This narrative isn't just about a teacher and a parent. It's about the fundamental importance of listening. It's about valuing every voice, regardless of title, wealth, or demeanor. The next time someone tries to put you in a box based on how you look or what they think they know about you, remember Miss Eleanor Vance. Remember her quiet strength, her unwavering commitment to truth, and her ultimate vindication. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for what's right. And never let anyone's prejudices prevent you from doing your job, from sharing your expertise, or from being heard. Because you never know who you're really talking to. If you enjoyed this story of justice served and assumptions shattered, make sure to subscribe for more incredible narratives that champion intellect and resilience. Hit that like button to show your support and let us know in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated because of how you looked or where you came from? Share your story below. Your experiences contribute to the larger truth that everyone deserves respect, and every voice deserves to be heard. Ms. Eleanor Vance continued to shape young minds, her textbooks guiding countless students, her example inspiring even more. Her quiet dignity became a beacon, a testament to the enduring truth that true authority is earned through knowledge and integrity, not inherited through privilege. And more importantly, everyone deserves to be heard, regardless of who they are.